So I want you to picture this morning. I know what you were doing. Um, this morning I had I made some breakfast. I'd warmed up some of my pre-packaged. I say pre-packaged. I made them myself. Breakfast burritos. I had them in the air fryer, and I ate them. And I was like, "This is so good. I'm so delicious. It's time for me to go to work now." And so I get into the car and I start driving to pick up my coffee. And as I'm pulling out of the parking lot, I'm like, you know what, Monty, you don't have your Kindle. How are you going to do any kind of reading if you don't have your Kindle? Now, I did have my phone, which does technically have the Kindle app, but besties, I do not like the Kindle app. I do not like the Kindle app. That's why I bought the first Kindle. And then my first Kindle was like, it is kind of old. It is kind of, a little long in the tooth. And the refreshing, I feel like there's a lot of ghosting on the e-ink display. Let me go ahead and get a Kindle Scribe. That I need the Kindle Scribe? Absolutely not. Be better than me, besties. But I do like it. And I do think that they have there's like a new version of it now. It's like a little bit thinner. The bezels are a little bit not as chunky as mine. But mine is just fine. And I did technically buy it refurbished. So one, it was a little bit cheaper because I do think that it's crazy how much it costs. I was looking at the new Kindle Scribe. I think they have a color version. I personally don't need a color Kindle, but maybe you do. Um, but I was like, one of these I have to just start leaving in the car, to be honest. But I have not. And so I grabbed my coffee and I was like, you know what you can do, Monty? You can go to the library, because what is a library but a place of books? And maybe they'll have this book at the library. And they did not have See You at the Finish Line at the library, because that was what I was going to start today, because it is a book that is out and released. Obviously, I'm not going to the library to pick up an ARC. That would be deeply, deeply unserious. But they didn't have it. And so I was like, you know what? This is still a library, place of books. I'm sure they have some male romance that you can read, Monty. And they did. They had I grabbed three, but we're only going to talk about this one because I don't know if I'm going to read the other two. I just kind of grabbed them because I was there. But when I was there, I was like, you know what? I was looking on the new release shelf, because See You at the Finish Line is technically a new release, at least for the terms of my library. Like, that'd be the place that is most likely to be shelved. But it was checked out already. So although I will say according to the catalog, that's where it would have been. But while I was there, I happened to see Winging It With You by Chip Pons. Now, if you go back to January, I did actually read a Chip Pons book, and I vlogged it for you guys, you and I rewritten. And I don't think that I was the biggest fan of that book. I don't remember any details or particularly why I did not love that book. In my head, and I could be lying to you. I do know that it's since been picked up by a traditional publisher, I'm pretty sure. But in my head, that book was self-published. And there was just something about its debut. I thought it was self-published. Maybe it wasn't. Whatever the case is, I did not go through the rest of the year going like, oh my goodness, Chip Pons. I need to read more of Chip Pons. If anything, I read that book and then I saw Winging It With You. And I want to say, and this could also be me lying to you, that it's a Penguin book. And I want to say Penguin sent an email with an ARC, like a widget for NetGalley. And it was after I had read You and I Rewritten, and I was like, I did not like You and I Rewritten. So do I read the follow-up? And so I did not download the book. Sometimes I'll download the book, even though I'm like, are you realistically going to read this? Probably not. But I like having it on my Kindle for the times in my life where like I need a Kindle book. Oftentimes when I am when I'm picking out a book for the Patreon polls, I like to pull things that I know I'm going to have immediate access to, just because I don't really buy books these days if I haven't read it. Although, since we're here and we're talking about books, technically, I have bought a book recently that I have not read, and that is Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Susan. Why did I buy this book, you ask? Because I'm convinced I want to say it was only one video essay. I think it was from Be Kind to Rewind. They had like a whole video on it. And I was like, that sounds like the most Monty book that you could ever come out with. And so I watched that video essay. And then I want to say it was like a year ago, or at some point, I had some Audible credits. I bought the I think it's the 50th anniversary. It can't be the 50th anniversary edition. It's some anniversary edition, and it's narrated by Laverne Cox. And at some point in the last year or so, I started listening to it, and it was the wrong time for me to listen to it. It was not the book. It was not the right time. So I had the audiobook, and then I saw this at my local used bookstore, and I was like, when are you going to see? It's not in the best condition, to be honest with you. There is very clearly some, fraying, some rips, some tears. But this is a book from like the 60s, I want to say. Let me, yeah, 1966. When am I going to find Valley of the Dolls in one of the more original? I don't know if this edition is from 66. Let me see here. It doesn't really say on that page. It doesn't say, but I'm assuming it is one of the originaler covers. But yeah, like I'm convinced this is going to be the most Monty book they could ever possibly imagine. Is this going to be the edition of the book that I read? Probably not. Probably not. But I probably will listen to the Laverne Cox version. But still, like, when am I going to find Valley of the Dolls again? So I had to buy it. It was just kind of like when I got somewhere on my shelves, I have Little Fires Everywhere in hardback, because when are you going to find Little Fires Everywhere in hardback? I think I bought that book for like $40, which is a crazy price to pay for a used book. I think it was $40. Let me see. Little Fires Everywhere in hardback. Yeah, it was 40 American dollars, which is crazy when this book retailed for $27 back in the day. But again, it's a hardback copy. It's not it is in plastic, but it's not a library copy. And then it's technically signed by Celeste, but like it's not personalized. It's not to me. This could be anybody scribbling in this book. But nowadays, book hardcovers are retailing for $40. So me paying $40 for a used book doesn't seem as crazy. I mean, it is crazy. Don't be out here spending $40 on used books, guys. Anyway, all of that is to say, because I'm not in the era of my life where I don't be buying books like that, I went to the library. I walked away with this. And when I'm pulling books for the Patreon videos, which I think that's the original point, I try to pull from either my Libro collection, my Kindle, the ARCs over there on Kindle. And then it helps me, one, keep accountable. And then two, I do know when I'm going to the bookstore or I'm at Target or whatever, that those are probably the books that I should buy. Like, that's probably a book that I should pick up. Like, I listened to Great Big Beautiful Life, and I was like, 5 out of 5. Because why on earth would I ever go and buy a fucking Emily Henry book? No shade to Emily Henry, but it's like, me and Emily Henry had not been seeing eye to eye, so why would I go out and buy this in hardcover? Until I read it, and then I read it, and I was like, oh, yeah, I need to have that. Also, I'm struggling, because I did also read Beach Read, and I really liked Beach Read. And they do have, that hardcover special. It's not a special edition, but, that little edition they did. But I can't bring myself to pop the perch. Can't bring myself to pop the perch on it, even though I did enjoy it. It was one of the highlights of the year. Let's digress, though. Chip Pond's Winging It With You. This morning, I read the first 100 or so pages. I read 108 pages this morning before I walked into work. And the first 108 pages of this, actually, I was making a mental note of this. By page 32, we had everything we needed to know from the synopsis. And again, this is kind of where the love lyric was letting me down. It was letting me down. And it's not that the love lyric did turn out to be bad, but I do think that there is something to the point that, at least for me, at least for what scratches my reading itch, is I like getting the exposition stuff out of the way and like, let's just get into the story. And so in this, we already had Asher like literally on page 1 getting dumped by his long-term boyfriend. His long-term boyfriend wanted to do the Amazing Race with him, and then they get to the airport and he's like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do us anymore. I gotta go. Like, I'm sorry, but I gotta bounce. Which is crazy thing to do when you're literally about to get on the flight to go and do this. So that's Asher. Theo, we find out, is I think he's an ex-Navy pilot, and he is working commercially for one airline. It might have been America, it might have been Delta. He's working for somebody's airline. But he does not take personal time. He doesn't take vacation days. He doesn't really do anything. And apparently, if you're a pilot, like, they make you do that shit. They're like, you're not going to be flying every day for the rest of your life. Like, you got to go do something. And so HR has conspired against him to be like, hey, we're enforcing the rules here and you have to go. And because this is like the third quarter in a row that you have not, like, you've waited and not taken time off between flights or whatever, you need to document the fact that you're actually taking this break before we'll even look at you coming back. And so one of his post-flight rituals is he and his co-pilot, I think his name is Mick, they usually go to the airport Chili's, not Chili's, it's TGI Fridays. My apologies, TGI Fridays. Sorry. But they go to TGI Fridays, they have mozzarella sticks, and they have a beer, they have a drink, they have a little drinky drink, they hang out, they have a good little time. They have a little kiki after the flight. But they show up to the TGI Fridays, and Asher is there, drowning his sorrows in some alcoholic beverage. I want to say a Long Island, but it's not Long Island. But he's drinking his alcoholic beverages, and he orders some mozzarella sticks. And lo and behold, he orders the last of the mozzarella sticks. And so Theo goes over and is like, hey, I'll buy those mozzarella sticks off of you. And Asher is like, can't you see that I'm having a moment here? And Theo's like, well, look, this is our thing. Like, me and my flight, like, we just start, like, you wouldn't want to interrupt our superstition. Like, what if there's a plane crash next time because, like, we didn't have our mozzarella sticks this time? And so eventually they decide that they're going to flip a coin for it. And if it's heads, Theo gets some mozzarella sticks. And if it's tails, then he owes Asher a favor, whatever his favor is. And Asher wins. And so Asher gets Theo to come and pretend to be his boyfriend on this Amazing Race-esque show. I've already read the first, like they're already in the competition at 108 pages, and we are in the competition. They've completed the first task, and people already, their producers already know that they're not really together. They're like, what is this? But you're gonna have to fake it till you make it, baby. And they've also already had the first steamy scene where they're forced to share a hotel room because, again, Asher signed up to do the show with his boyfriend, so he has one hotel room. And so they lock eyes while I think Theo's in the shower and Asher was pleasuring himself on the bed. And so they lock eyes, and then Theo starts. It was a whole scene. I was like, you know what? This is a lot to be reading at 10 o'clock in the morning. But you know what? I was here for it. This doesn't necessarily feel better than when I rewritten, but I think I'm appreciating this more than I did that debut novel. So again, maybe I was too harsh on it. Maybe it was the beginning of the year. I will say that at the beginning of the year, I had just read, I don't know where this falls on the reading timeline of it all, but I do know that I read The Favorites that same month, and The Favorites was so good. The Favorites was so good. And I don't really know what the conversation around that being a romance and not being a romance really ended up for everybody, but to me, it was definitely one of the best reads of the year. And so it didn't compare favorably to that. But now, as I'm working my way out of the slot factory, like I had been clocked in for one too many shifts over there at the slot factory, this is a fresher breath air. It's not game changing. It's not revolutionary. It is another fake dating storyline in the long list of fake dating storylines. But you know what? The fake dating makes somewhat sense. Like I see why we're doing it here. We are already getting to know a little bit of information about our main characters. We know that Asher he's in STEM. He does bio things that made sense when he was explaining it. He's a bioengineer, I want to say. Again, don't ask me to explain it. He won't have to explain it to you. And then, as we know, Theo is the pilot. And I think Theo was the one who also grew up next to a lake in like Michigan. I want to say Wisconsin, one of the lakes states up there. And so that's why he knew how to sailboat, which was important to one of the challenges. But I've already had their first little fight. It's really fun. Like we are really getting into the meat of the story again already, which is something that I feel it took a lot of time for the Love Lyric to do, which works for a lot of people. Like when I was scrolling through the Goodreads reviews of that book, like there are some people who really enjoyed it, but for me personally, I think it took too long to get to them going on this little week-long vacation, but this week-long tour. And then the tour wasn't even the whole book. And then the book kind of became about her. Again, first, as much as that book was, I didn't even talk about this yesterday, but a lot of the book was focusing on trying to turn this makeup company around and like getting, back into a positive PR light after that whole debacle where people got food poisoning. And so for her to like give up that whole sort of career path, in part because she had dated or she had fooled around, she had been doing this thing with Angel, but then also because, again, like her family is the florists of New Jersey, and she wanted to like own I don't want to say it came out of fucking nowhere, but she was going to go and like open up an extension of the florist business in this different city. It was a lot. And then it was a whole thing of like her like selling her marital home and moving on and moving up with Angel. I just feel like that book was tackling a lot in the sort of like the last half that it didn't really have the time or patience to do. And I didn't get into that yesterday, but it wasn't just the fact that like, oh, this is such a silly little premise and like this is a deeply unserious little turnaround, but there was a lot of like small things in that didn't really work out. And we are early days. There are still 200 plus pages to go because this book is 350 pages. It looks like, yeah, 361 pages. So there's still 200 some odd pages. 200 and what, 50, 243? Is that, I don't know, 53 pages? I think that's math. So that's plenty of time to crash and burn. I'm just having a much better time. A much better time. Also, I'm having a much better time than when I was over there in the Miss Read world. Seeing love for those books specifically is still kind of crazy to me. Seeing love for the TV show, I will allow. I do have 2 days off this week. One of those days, I will be going to the movie theater on Wednesday, because Wednesday and Thursday, the restaurant is closed. On Wednesday, I'm going to the movie theaters to watch Marty Supreme. I think I see that at noon. And then that new Kate Hudson movie is what I'm seeing after that. I would love to see The Testament of Anne Lee, which also goes live or like wide on Christmas, but it's not playing near me. And it is yet to be determined if I am trying to go on a road trip on Christmas to go watch a movie. I'll have to see. I'll have to get back to you on that one. But for now, that's really all I got for you guys. There was a little library haul. There was a little bit of everything. There was me starting a new little bookie book. He does have another book out next year. I think the next one is like paranormally. So maybe Chip Ponds, Turning the Year Around, one of the best books, one potentially, not really, but one of the pleasant surprise books, and a book that I could take or leave it. So shout out to him. Love that for me. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and leave this one here. Will I finish this tomorrow? I don't know. My plan was to read more of this today than I eventually did. Again, I only read for a little bit of time this morning. But if I read again tomorrow and then, before work, and I read again after work, I probably could knock this out. So we could get that not out of the way. That sounds like it's a chore, but you'll have to tune in tomorrow to find out. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up here. See you guys tomorrow. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and until next time, bye, besties.